I stared at my reflection in the gleaming stainless steel of my food truck, remembering the day everything changed. 6 months ago, I had stood in my mother-in-law Victoria's pristine kitchen, trying to share my dream with someone I thought would understand. A food truck. Victoria's perfectly manicured hand froze midway to her mouth, the petit four she was about to eat forgotten. Darling, please tell me you're joking. I'm Sophie Martinez, and at 28, I had finally saved enough money to start my own business. After years of working as a sous chef at high-end restaurants, I was ready to bring my fusion cuisine to the streets of Boston. My husband Jack supported my dream completely. His mother, however, was a different story. I'm serious, Victoria. I've already found the perfect truck, and I have all the permits lined up. I pulled out my business plan, carefully crafted over months of research. Look at these projections. No daughter of mine sells street food, she sneered, pushing away my carefully prepared presentation. What will everyone at the country club say? The Prescotts don't peddle tacos on street corners. I felt my cheeks burn. First, I'm not your daughter. I'm your daughter-in-law. Second, this isn't just street food. I'm creating innovative fusion cuisine that combines. Innovative. She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. Darling, the only thing innovative about food trucks is how quickly they go bankrupt. If you need a project, why not join the club's charity committee? At least that would be respectable. I gathered my papers, trying to keep my hands from shaking. I don't need a project, Victoria. I'm a trained chef with 10 years of experience. Yes, we all know about your little cooking job. She waved her hand dismissively. But you're a Prescott now. We have standards to maintain. The way she said my married name made it sound like a crown I didn't deserve to wear. I've been dealing with Victoria's subtle, and not so subtle, digs for 3 years since marrying Jack, but this was different. This was my dream she was dismissing. The food service industry is in my blood, I said quietly. My grandmother built her restaurant from nothing after immigrating here. She taught me everything I know. Victoria's perfectly lined lips curled. Exactly my point, dear. You come from different circumstances, but now you have an opportunity to elevate yourself. Don't throw it away on some food cart fantasy. I left her house that day with my business plan clutched to my chest and tears threatening to spill. But as I drove home, something inside me hardened. Victoria Prescott might have her country club and her social circle, but I had something she'd never understand: passion and determination. What Victoria didn't know was that I'd been secretly building my business foundation for months. My grandmother had left me a substantial inheritance, but I kept it quiet, letting Victoria believe I was living off Jack's income. The truth was, Jack and I had been equal partners from the start, both in marriage and in finances. I also had a secret weapon: my grandmother's recipes, modernized with my own twists. Her restaurant had been legendary in Chicago's culinary scene before she retired, and I'd spent years perfecting her techniques while adding my own contemporary flair. 2 weeks after that conversation with Victoria, my food truck fusion revolution hit the streets. I started small, testing locations and building a following. Victoria's words echoed in my head every morning as I fired up the burners, but I channeled that negativity into fuel. My signature dish, Korean Mexican bulgogi tacos with kimchi slaw, became an instant hit. Food bloggers started showing up, then local news crews. Within a month, I had regular lunch crowds forming lines down the block. But success didn't soften Victoria's attitude. If anything, it made her worse. She started sending me passive-aggressive texts whenever she saw my truck mentioned on social media. Saw your little cart on Instagram, dear. Hope you're wearing sunscreen. All that standing around outside can be so aging. The final straw came during a family dinner at her house. I'd just been featured in Boston Magazine's Rising Stars of Street Food article, and Jack was proudly showing everyone the spread. Isn't this amazing? Jack beamed, displaying the beautiful photos of my creations. They're calling her food revolutionary. Victoria barely glanced at the magazine. Revolutionary? Please, she's serving food out of a truck parked between hot dog carts and pretzel stands. It's embarrassing to the family name. The table fell silent. Jack started to speak, but I touched his arm, stopping him. I'd had enough of Victoria's condescension, but I wasn't going to stoop to her level. Instead, I smiled and stood up. You're right, Victoria. Maybe I should think bigger. I gathered my things, maintaining my composure. Thank you for helping me see that. As I walked out, I heard her smug laugh. Finally, she's coming to her senses. But what Victoria didn't know was that I had already been thinking bigger, much bigger. That magazine feature had attracted attention from some serious investors, including one who owns several properties in Boston's most exclusive neighborhoods. That night, as Jack and I sat in our kitchen, I finally shared my full plan with him. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, looking over the documents I'd been keeping secret. I nodded. "Your mother's right about one thing. I should think bigger. And what's bigger than owning the very place she uses to look down on others?" Jack's eyes widened as he realized what I was planning. "The country club." "But how?" I pulled out my grandmother's old leather portfolio. Remember how I said she taught me everything? Well, she didn't just teach me about cooking. She taught me about business too, and about patience. Inside that portfolio was the key to my revenge, and to Victoria's comeuppance. But first, I had a food truck empire to build. Over the next 3 months, I expanded my food truck operation with laser-focused precision. My one truck became 3, each specializing in different fusion cuisines. The lines kept growing, and so did my bank account, though Victoria didn't need to know that part. "Another food truck?" She sighed during Sunday brunch at her house. "Really, Sophia, isn't one enough?" "Jack, darling, talk some sense into your wife." Jack sipped his mimosa, hiding his smile. "Actually, Mother, it's 3 trucks now, and they're all profitable." Victoria nearly choked on her crumpet. "3? Well, I suppose if you enjoy that sort of thing." She turned to her friend Margaret, who was visiting. "Though I do worry about the family reputation." Margaret, however, wasn't listening. She was scrolling through her phone, her eyes widening. "Victoria, isn't this your daughter-in-law's company? The one that just bought the old Rosewood property downtown?" Victoria snatched the phone, her face paling as she read the article. "The Rosewood? But that's one of the most expensive properties in the city." I buttered my toast calmly. "Oh yes, we're opening our first restaurant there next month. Would you like to come to the opening, Victoria? We're already fully booked for the first 3 months, but I'm sure I could squeeze you in." The Rosewood was just the beginning. While Victoria had been busy spreading rumors about my little food cart business at her precious country club, I had been strategically reinvesting my profits. The food trucks had been generating serious cash flow. But my grandmother's inheritance was the real game changer. My grandmother hadn't just left me money, she had left me her business acumen. "Never show all your cards at once, Mijita," she used to say. "Let them underestimate you. That's when you can make your biggest moves." So while Victoria thought I was struggling with my street food, I was quietly building a restaurant empire. The Rosewood would be my flagship location, combining all 3 of my fusion concepts under one roof. But more importantly, it was right across the street from Victoria's beloved country club. The real estate agent had called me 2 weeks ago with the news I'd been waiting for. "Mrs. Martinez, the country club's mortgage has been sold. Would you like to proceed with the next phase?" I had been preparing for this moment for months. Victoria had no idea that her precious club was in financial trouble, or that the management had been looking for buyers. She also didn't know that I had been attending investor meetings under my grandmother's maiden name. "Sophia, dear," Victoria cornered me after brunch, her voice sickly sweet. "I hope you don't think I'm being cruel. I just worry about you. Running a restaurant is so demanding. How will you ever have time for children?" I smiled, thinking about the meeting I had scheduled for tomorrow. "Don't worry about me, Victoria. I learned from the best about balancing family and business." "Oh, and who might that be?" "My grandmother," I replied, gathering my things. "She taught me that success is the best revenge against people who look down on you." Victoria's face tightened, but before she could respond, my phone buzzed. It was my real estate agent again. Everything was in place for tomorrow's meeting with the country club's board. That night, I showed Jack the final piece of my plan. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, looking at the documents. "Mother will be furious." "That's the point," I said, checking my presentation one last time. "Your mother thinks I'm beneath her because I work in food service. Wait until she finds out who really owns her social status." The next morning, I walked into the country club's board meeting wearing my grandmother's lucky blazer. Victoria wasn't there. As a social member, she wasn't privy to the club's financial dealings. "Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen," I began, "I'm here representing Martinez Global Holdings." I pulled up my presentation, showing my plans for the club's future. I believe we can make this club profitable again while maintaining its exclusive nature. 2 hours later, I walked out as the new owner of the Prescott Valley Country Club. Victoria's social sanctuary now belonged to the food truck vendor she'd been mocking for months. But I wasn't done yet. The real show would come next week, when the club's membership renewal notices went out, with my name on them as the new owner. Everything's set, I told Jack that evening. In 7 days, your mother will discover that her country club membership now depends on approval from her embarrassing daughter-in-law. Jack shook his head, but he was smiling. You know, when you first told me about this plan, I thought you were crazy, but watching Mother dismiss you all these months while you built an empire right under her nose, it's kind of brilliant. I picked up my phone, which was buzzing with notifications about the Rosewood's upcoming opening. Food critics, celebrities, and social media influencers were all clamoring for reservations. The best part? I said, showing Jack the guest list. I've seated your mother's entire social circle for opening night, but her name seems to have gotten lost in the system. Victoria had no idea that her carefully curated social world was about to implode. But first, she had a membership renewal notice to receive. The day Victoria received her country club membership renewal notice, I made sure to be there. She always took her morning coffee in the club's sunroom at precisely 9 a.m., surrounded by her usual circle of socialites. I watched from the new manager's office as she opened the envelope, her perfectly maintained composure crumbling as she read the letter inside. "This must be a mistake," she announced to her friends, her voice shrill. "It says the club has been purchased by Martinez Global Holdings." Margaret, ever helpful, pulled out her phone. "Oh my, isn't that the same company that bought the Rosewood? Your daughter-in-law's new restaurant?" Victoria's face went from pink to white to an interesting shade of purple. "Impossible. That girl sells tacos from a truck. She couldn't possibly." That was my cue. I stepped into the sunroom, wearing my grandmother's vintage Chanel suit, the one she'd worn when she opened her first 5-star restaurant. "Good morning, ladies," I said cheerfully. "I hope everyone's received their membership renewal notices." Victoria stood up so quickly her coffee cup rattled. You're behind this." I settled into a plush armchair, smoothing my skirt. "Behind what, Victoria?" "Oh, you mean the club's acquisition?" "Yes, that would be me. Though technically, it's just the newest addition to my restaurant group." "Restaurant group?" Margaret's eyes widened. "Those food trucks were just the beginning," I finished for her. "You see, Victoria, while you were busy mocking my little food cart, I was building something bigger. Those trucks, they generate more revenue in a month than this club does in a year." Victoria sank back into her chair, clutching her renewal notice. But how?" "My grandmother didn't just leave me recipes," I explained, pulling out my phone to show them my company's portfolio. "She left me an empire. Those food trucks were just market research for my expansion plans. The Rosewood opening next week, that's just location number 1. The other women leaned in, fascinated, as I scrolled through images of my properties and plans. Victoria watched in horror as her friends' allegiances visibly shifted. "Speaking of the Rosewood," Margaret piped up, "I heard it's impossible to get a reservation." I smiled. "Nearly impossible, yes. Though I'm sure I could arrange something for valued club members." I paused deliberately. "That is, for those whose memberships are approved for renewal." Victoria's hand shook as she held up her notice. "What do you mean, approved?" "Oh, didn't you read the fine print? As the new owner, I'll be personally reviewing all membership renewals. We're being very selective about maintaining the club's, what was it you always said? Ah yes, its standards." The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Victoria's face flushed as she realized her social standing now depended entirely on my goodwill. "You can't do this," she whispered. "This club has been part of my life for 30 years. I leaned forward. "Can't I? No daughter of yours sells street food, remember." "But this daughter-in-law owns your entire social world now." The room fell silent. Even the usually chatty Margaret was speechless. "So what happens now?" Victoria finally asked, her voice small. I stood up, smoothing my suit. Now you have a choice. You can either embrace change and accept that your daughter-in-law is more than what you assumed, or you can find another club. Though I should mention, I've already begun negotiations to acquire the Windsor Club across town." Victoria's shoulders slumped in defeat. What do you want from me? An apology would be nice, not just to me, but to every service worker you've looked down on. And I pulled out an envelope. I'd like you to attend a special dinner next week. The Rosewood opening? No, I smiled. A private event at my original food truck location. All proceeds will go to a scholarship fund for aspiring chefs from immigrant families, in honor of my grandmother. 3 days later, Victoria showed up at my food truck wearing Chanel and pearls. She looked completely out of place among the lunch crowd, but she was there. And when I handed her a bulgogi taco, she ate it. All of it. This is actually quite good, she admitted reluctantly. I know, I said simply. I learned from the best. Over the next few weeks, a strange thing happened. Victoria, perhaps realizing her social survival depended on it, became my biggest champion. She raved about my food to her friends, hosted parties at the Rosewood, and even learned the names of my food truck staff. Was it genuine? Maybe not entirely. But watching her recommend my innovative fusion cuisine to her country club friends while wearing a Fusion Revolution branded apron, my special requirement for her membership renewal, was satisfaction enough. My grandmother used to say that success is the best revenge, but showing mercy can be even sweeter. So I let Victoria keep her club membership, and in return, she learned a valuable lesson about judging people based on appearances. As for me, I'm expanding to New York next month. Turns out there's a certain country club there that's looking for new ownership, and I hear they could use a good food truck in the parking lot.